the opening statement. I'm ready to answer questions. Let them rip.
Brett, it's obvious you lost a great inside guy and a guy who helped you a bunch
Yeah.
outside last year. And it looks like the guys you brought in can fill those roles. You're looking for the same production. Will it look the same how you get that production, and what are some of the adjustments you've had to make getting the new guys in to fit where you want?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if it'll look exactly the same. And I don't know if the production will be maybe quite at that level. Hopefully through a combination of folks, we can have similar numbers. We're going to need similar numbers if we're going to have a really good season. But I think we're going to have to play a little bit differently at times. What does that look like? We'll see. Try to be a little faster at times on offense, maybe. And then, hopefully our bench plays well, that we can play with some depth. That's I think how we've thought about it going in. But again, it'll be based on production. Guys are going to have to produce when they get in the games, and I'm excited to see how guys play. It was nice to have a scrimmage over the weekend for the first time. Our guys were ready to play somebody else, and so that was good. But obviously there's a long way to go. We have a lot of things we got to get better at.
No, go ahead.
What did you see in that scrimmage?
We scored a lot, which was good. I thought we didn't turn the ball over a lot, which was really good, playing a little bit faster. So usually when you increase your tempo and speed, your decisions sometimes are happening at a faster pace, and you can get a little careless. We were disciplined that way, so I was very pleased with all that. Defensively, we were not as good. Sometimes when you play faster like that, it creates more open court also for your opponent. And I think, we got exposed with some mistakes there. But at the same time, I was pleased for the most part. I thought we had a lot of guys play pretty well, and Chase and Ian played well, which is important. Your best players have to play well most of the time for you to be successful, and those guys did that. It's a new role for them. I mean, they haven't been 1 and 2 on the scouting report before, so for them to deal with that a little bit is good for them. And then for other guys just to get minutes experience, used to how we do things, that was good. So it was a good first day.
That conversation, especially with Ian, his play now is going to get him attention he's not seen before. And it'll be incumbent on the new guys coming in to have that. But what are some of the conversations you've had with Ian about now being that guy?
Yeah, just he doesn't have to do anything different, right? Just, he's going to understand, we've tried to work to expand his game. We hope that he'll shoot a few more threes this year. He'll probably have the ball at the top and be asked to make a few more decisions. And then we need his leadership, right? We need his voice. We need his experience. And that is a little bit more challenging sometimes than even just to play on the court.
Talk about turnovers, the reduction of turnovers in the last scrimmage, and as turnovers being kind of some topic of last season, do you think with that kind of the change and you wanting to play faster, do you think that has any risk of?
Well, our turnover numbers were good last year, but we played slower. And there were things that we made decisions as a team last year. We didn't create turnovers either. We played half-court man-to-man defense, and it was 25 feet and in, and we used our size and length and tried to stay between the ball and the basket and make people shoot over us. And, we did a really good job of defending the first initial shot most times, and we got the defensive rebounds. Our defensive rebound percentage was high. So, that's what worked with last year's team. This year's team, we might have to be a little more aggressive. I hope we have a little more speed, but again, some of this remains to be seen. You're still kind of making adjustments with this year's team. Offensively, we're trying to play a little quicker. I think we have guys that can move up and down a little bit more. We may sub a little more freely, especially early on. And then the natural tendency when you do that is to turn the ball over. And so we've talked a lot about, we can't just play fast. We have to play fast and efficient, and so we have to make sure we're getting shots on goal.
Playing fast means
No, more in the open court, full court, just, a little more thrust and a little bit more of an attack mentality.
Who have been some of the guys coming, even like the new guys coming in as well as, to look at Chauncey and those guys who've been there that have been kind of with this new focus of you playing faster, playing with more aggression, kind of been people that you'd be able to have confidence and lean on doing that?
The older guys, Jaden, Zachary, and Victor right now are two that I think, they're the most experienced guys that we brought in, Miles as well. And so those two guys come to mind right away, and you would expect that. I think our older guys who played here last year have all, there have been different times when we've played a little quicker. We just haven't maybe made as big an emphasis consistently as we have now. And so we're trying to do that to see if it fits with this team and if our team can handle it. And if we can, we'll try to stay with it a little bit. And, if we feel like it's not working, then we'll slow the game back down if we need to and control it more as coaches. But right now we're trying to play with a little more flow and just freedom and trust your older players to make good decisions and play with some decision. We do have older guards, which I think is good. And I think Chase is good in the open floor. Jaden's good in the open floor. So trying to help those guys, is part of why we're doing what we're doing.
How about the aggression defensively? Anticipate more full court?
A little bit. I'd like to extend our defense some. I don't know that we're not going to get out and try. We're not trying to lead the league in steals or anything like that, but just we would like to pick up our pressure point. Our personnel is different. I think Jaden guards the ball well. Chase can guard the ball well. Dylan Hunter can guard the ball well. Dell Jones, our freshman, can really guard the ball. So we have some on-ball guards that we feel like can jam the ball a little bit and extend ourselves, at least, initially to apply a little more pressure. But again, we don't want to give up positioning and get overextended in the half court. I think that's not good for many defenses.
What excites you the most about this team right now, where you are?
Just the thrill of a new group. Putting the pieces together to try to make the puzzle fit. I mean, that's as a coach, that's some of the stuff that you really enjoy. Very challenging, as I've said before. When you have this many new pieces, there's more than we've had in a long time. That it goes a little slower, and I've been reminded of that. In that I go to one practice thinking that we've already got this part figured out, and we don't quite have it figured out, or we got it figured out for a couple practices, then we go on to some other things, come back to it, and we're not quite where we need to be. But I have to remind myself that we have a lot of new players, and so even the terminology, and there's a lot of new terminology for everybody that it takes a lot of getting used to, and so I just think now that we're at starting to play some games, scrimmages, exhibitions, all that stuff. Guys will really be attentive. And then the other thing that's going to happen is, sometimes when you don't know what to do as well, you won't play as much. And so hopefully that expedites your learning as well. And so, we're trying to do all we can to help with that. But sometimes it just takes practice. It just takes reps and mental and physical. It's not just all physical. And so we've got to get through some of that, and that'll take a little while.
Both the guys that have been here handle
Yeah.
having to kind of refresh some of that, and these new guys embracing some of those challenges?
Yeah, the older guys will be great, and they're not. I try to talk to them all the time. You can't get bored with the fundamentals, right? I mean, part of grit is not just everybody thinks of grit as like doing these tough things. Sometimes it's doing the fundamental things over and over and over and over, at a high level. People get bored with it. They don't want to stick with those kinds of things. And, usually mastering your fundamentals and any, your technique and whatever you're teaching or working in is it's so important. And our older guys have done a good job of that. They understand it. They've come to practice excited. Chase Hunter's been great, for a guy who's been here as long as he has. I mean, he could very easily get tired of this, and he really hasn't shown that at all. He's been practicing really hard, and I know he's excited for games to come, just like some of the new guys. But he and Ian especially have done well.
Is teams, but there have been times where you brought in a number of new faces. Has this one, as a gauge, kind of been better than some acclamations?
Yeah, it's a little slower than some, and I think there's more this year, right? We only really have 4 players. I mean, Asa and Jake were on the team, but they didn't really play last year, and Asa didn't even practice that much because of his shoulder surgery, and so there, that you can tell those guys are trying to figure it out too. So there's just so many new faces that it's been a little slower than I'm used to, especially here recently, because I think our last couple years we've been very experienced, and a lot of guys who played a lot of basketball and a lot of guys returning, and so we've been able to get right through our stuff and have multiple things ready, and maybe just not quite as into that part of it yet. But it's hard to get to C, D, and E when you're still trying to master A and B a little bit, and so we don't want to skip a lot of steps. But we've made a lot of improvement in the last 2 weeks. I think our team has really improved over the last 2 weeks. You're starting to see some guys really understand when this is taken away, what's next, and flow into the next decision-making process. And that's part of what we're, that just takes a little bit of time.
Slower on offensive or defensive end?
It's a little bit of both. I think probably defensively right now we're a little behind where I'd like to be.
Do you just mean like the processing?
Some of it, yeah. And even just, you just don't have as many things in, right? You can't quite get as many things in because you don't want to put in new things if you're not really good at the other things. And so that part probably a little slower for sure.
With Chase, what do you think he has to do for his off nights to be more productive with that?
Yeah. I mean, just consistency, right, is what you're asking. He needs to be a little bit more consistent. What does that look like? Obviously, is it as simple as 3 for 10 instead of 1 for 10? I mean, a little bit, yeah, but he also needs to impact the game in other ways, right? He needs to rebound the ball a little bit better. He had a bunch of rebounds in our scrimmage, which was good to see. Assists, defend, lead, continue to impact the game without just being points. And I talked to him and showed him some stat sheets last year. I can't remember who it was. There was a game he was 3 for 3 from the field and 5 for 6 from the line, and whatever the points were, I can't remember if there was a 3 in there or not. It was an incredibly efficient game, and it's like you only took 3 shots. Now you probably tried a few more times, but you got fouled. But efficiency is really good, right? Just because you're having an off night, sometimes you don't need to keep shooting. Shooting isn't always the answer. Make a play for somebody else. Get another guy a shot. And it's, that's part of what he can do because he has the ability to do a lot of really good things.
When you talk about all these new pieces, all these, putting in all of your guys' systems and everything, how important was it? How valuable is it to have Chase? It was a perfect storm of situations, of course, but how important is he?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to have a couple guys, Chase, Ian, Chauncey Wiggins, Dylan, those 4 guys that have been through it, know what we're talking about. We call out drills and they go right to them, and or they're on the side explaining something to somebody, hey, this is what coach means by this, or the kids are asking those guys questions, not just the coaches when they're on the side and something's going on. It security blankets for coaches too, right? Just knowing that, hey, these guys have been here and done it, so we feel good about them. We got to get these other guys up to speed. And then the other thing that we are doing is blending. Okay, Joe Girard isn't here. Jaden Zachary is. They don't play the same. So now we've got to figure out how to play, with Jaden Zachary. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know if anybody ever knew this. Our first scrimmage last year, we played Ohio State. Joe Girard did not score. Was 0 for 4. And, had no points. And, I remember we were all a little bit like, wow, what just happened? And, we kind of knew that, he's trying to fit in, but we had a lot of stuff going on, and we didn't have quite as much stuff in for him. And we were just kind of getting our base stuff in and playing. And, then in the Elite Eight, you're running a million plays for him in the second half because he's hot. And it's like, yeah, we didn't have all that in back at that time, right? And so that's part of what I mean by, like, every season you got to adjust your situation, your team, who's there, what can they do, and then how do they fit with Ian and Chase and Chauncey and whoever else. And so, that's a process. How does Victor score? What does he do well? How can we put him in a position to be successful? Same with Miles and Christian Reed, all these guys. Like, what do they do well for us? And so, sometimes you're surprised, hey, he does that a little better than I thought he did. And sometimes you're surprised the other way. Man, I really thought he'd be able to do that a little better, right? And then it's like, maybe that's not what we thought we should be doing this, and that's not maybe what we need to be doing right now. We need to do some other things. So there's a little trial and error and working through that.
What is the expectation for someone like Chauncey Wiggins this season?
Play really hard every night, be a consistent performer for our team. What does that look like? We have to wait and see. But he's a guy that needs to affect the stat sheet in a lot of different ways at 6'10". We need him to get some deflections and some steals and a block and, a few more rebounds, and the offense will take care of itself. But score some around the paint, the basket, I think he'll do that. Just take the next step in his development. We've got a sign right there that says commit to the journey, and we're not only talking about our team's journey, we're talking about your individual journey, your journey as a player in this program. Be committed to it, no matter what it looks like, because what yours looks like is not the same as the other guys. And you're not the same as the other guys, so you don't need to worry about what the other guy's journey looks like. Look at your journey, and be prepared when it's your opportunity. And obviously, he's going to have a big opportunity this year.
What do you think about Tony Bennett retiring? Maybe what it says about the state of the game right now?
Disappointing from a college basketball standpoint. Terrific coach, person. All-time great Hall of Famer, coach and person. I hope I hope he's happy, to be honest with you. He's earned the right to be happy, and it is hard. I think what you're seeing is how hard it is on coaches right now. Like, it is really hard. There's no downtime, and the pressure to do all the things that you're asked to do besides coaching and helping, raise young men and, do all the things that come with that, with fundraising then and dealing with agents and just all the ancillary stuff, as well as all the stuff you do for the university. There's a lot. And I think it's almost like, I'm guessing, I don't know, it's like he almost said in his retirement, is like he never had a chance to even take a break, to even realize if, like, did he still want to keep doing this, until he took those 2 days to go away with his wife. And then he's kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this. And it's sad because we're losing a great man in our game and a great coach. But I can see it's happened to several coaches so far. And it's a tough time in that way. In that it saps your energy, and as he mentioned a couple times, your staff has to really be good and help you, because there's a lot of different directions you're pulled as a head coach right now. So,
how do you stay grounded and balanced throughout all the chaos? I know during the NCAA tournament you had to handle some transfer portal things.
yeah. Well, again, you lean on your coaches. I've got a great staff. Guys have been with me through a lot of things, and so I can trust them to do things for us that we need done. That really helps. But it's you try to take a little time for yourself when you can, but there's not much time for that. And then you just you kind of throw yourself into what you're doing and try to get energy and juice from your players. And certainly that's fun is working with your guys and getting them excited, seeing them have success. That keeps you going. But yeah, it's you better have a really good staff, and thankfully I do.
You guys are very intentional in the scheduling that you do. Just to kind of talk about what you guys ahead, and how does that position you
Yeah, I mean, this is a year where, we have another year where we have some really big games. Obviously, Kentucky coming to Clemson is a big time opportunity, and just, I think it speaks to improvement in our program. Trip to Boise, going to be unbelievable. They might be picked to win their league again. They were fantastic last year, another tournament. Those games are fun. But it's hard because you don't control everything in scheduling. You've got to have a little bit of break, in that you got to get somebody to agree to play you, and then we get a good break with the ACC SEC one. Alabama was a great game last year. But again, I do think our program's on an upswing, so we're getting more positive opportunities like those, and good for our players to be a part of it. All good?
Anything else for Coach?
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all being here.